It's time to look back and also forward. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am doing a State of the Nation address. This is where I'm going to go through the last haul that I have for 2024, as well as the last unhaul that I have. I've been collecting that over the last couple of months or so, and I'm also going to reveal to you the number of my TBR that is coming with me into 2025. I always like to kind of keep a good eye on how things are going when it gets to the end of the year and the start of the new one, so that I know just how many books are going to be on my TBR for the rest of the year, and also what's coming in and what's going out. We'll start with the clear up because there are a good couple of books that are going to be getting out here. I've gone through quite a few of them in the self-destruct TBR video because quite a few of the books on that list are initially coming from that. First up is No One Saw a Thing by Andrea Mara. I got this as a copy from my aunt. I think it was around July or August when I was last at home. And she said that it was a book that she thought would really work for me, and it just didn't do anything. I wasn't really that hyped about the characters. I felt like the storyline was a little bit far-fetched, and it just didn't do anything for me. I think I'm going to offer it up in my local library because my dad has also read it and he was kind of on the fence about it as well. And I asked her if she wanted me to give it back to her or if it was okay to send it on forward. And she said to just do what I wanted with it. Next up is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. I got swept up into the hype of this and honestly it did nothing for me. I think it was a little bit odd at times and I don't understand why there had to be a mystery flying through the pages of this book. It was a really cozy atmospheric thing, especially because I read it at the start of October, so everything was starting to get a little bit darker, everything was starting to get a little bit colder and crisper. But I just never really got swept up into the town. And when I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and I really didn't enjoy it, I knew that that was the final nail in the coffin and this just isn't going to be a series I'm going to continue. So why would I keep it on my shelves? It pains me to say that I'm going to be getting rid of My Favourite Mistake by Marian Keyes. This is her most recent book. I think it came out in March or April of this year and it's following one of the Walsh sisters, one of my favourite series. But I didn't really enjoy this book. I thought everybody in this town was so uppity, and there was a lot in this book that I felt like I didn't want happening. I didn't really want the main couple to end up together here. I didn't really want Anna to do a couple of things that she had ended up doing. It was a really great look at a character who was going through the menopause, but other than that, there wasn't really a whole lot that I enjoyed here. I'm also going to get rid of The Club by Ellery Lloyd. I tried to get into this, but I realized that I was just reading it on autopilot. I went back over a couple of pages and never really got the desire to actually keep going. So when a book is doing that to me, when I have noticed that I'm not really keeping speed with it, but I don't particularly want to go back and see what it was that I've missed out on, it's kind of a sign to say goodbye. I'm also getting rid of two books in a series, and that is Shipwrecked in All the Fields by Olivia Dade. This is the second and the third book in the Spoiler Alert series, and I tried about 4 or 5 times to get into All the Fields, but it's just not working for me. And I think that that is because it is kind of loosely set on a Game of Thrones styled fanfiction, and that's not a TV show that I enjoy. I'm not really big into that kind of high fantasy thing. So when the TV show doesn't work for me, I'm not entirely sure that a book series set on a TV show and also featuring a fan fiction of that TV show, it's just not something I'm going to reach for. Having read and not really enjoyed Wild Love by Elsie Silver, I've made the decision to get rid of Flawless. I also know that there's a couple of people who did a read along with this from Claire's Creative Corner back in August, I think, and they didn't really enjoy this. And I've heard a lot of up and downs about the whole series, so I just don't think that this is one I want to commit to. I'm getting rid of this sight unseen, and I don't really think I regret doing that. One of the main reasons that I picked up Sour and Bliss by Meg Mason is that my friend Shara was going to be running a book club that was focused on characters who were bipolar, and that never came to fruition. But after that didn't happen, I never found myself reaching out for this. And even when I put it on my self-destruct TBR and I never found myself taking it out, it just had to go. I know that somebody out there is probably going to enjoy it a lot more. It's just not going to be me. No matter how much money you pay me, I cannot tell you what Buy Another Name by Lauren Kate is about. I have a feeling it's set in New York and it's something to do with a publisher or an author or potentially both. But I have just never gone for this. I think I bought it about 2 years ago or so, and if it's never crossed my mind in 2 years, it's not likely that it's going to happen in 2025. I'm getting rid of another Marian Keyes book, and that is The Brightest Star in the Sky. I think throughout 2025, I'm going to be really taking a look at my Marian Keyes selection, which is right here behind my head. And I'm going to see if there are any books that I might be able to get rid of as well. Marion's been a little bit hit or miss for me when it comes to her older titles. I really enjoyed Again Rachel, that came out the year before last. And again, My Favorite Mistake wasn't really a winner for me, but most of her books have been pretty good. I just could not get into the massive chaos that was The Brightest Star in the Sky, and it's all set among a big house and all of the inhabitants that live there, and this kind of omniscient narrator who sees everything that happens in every single flat. I just didn't get into it. I love comedy, I love stand-up, but I am going to get rid of A Funny Life by Macklin McIntyre. I've never reached for it. I've given it to a friend of mine who was in hospital a couple of years ago, and she said that this really brightened up the stay that she had. But even if Michael McIntyre has got a special out, I've never really gone for it. I listened to a little bit of the audiobook in or around June, July of this year, and I just never really found myself wanting to keep going with it. Even though I really loved The Vanishing Half, I'm going to get rid of The Mothers because, again, it's just one that's been lingering on my TBR. I've never gone to pick it up. I did have sights on it for the Amazing Readathon this year because I felt like if there was a cover that has multiple colours on it, I thought that this would be absolutely perfect for it, especially because I was on the general fiction team, but this just never fit into anything. And I think that then I kind of put a vendetta on this book that I said, if it's not going to fit in for that, then I'm just not going to read it. Which sounds completely insane when you say it out loud, but that's how my brain went with this book. Finally, I am getting rid of The Set Up by Lizzie Dent. I really wanted to enjoy this book, but I also picked up Just One Taste by the same author, and the two writing styles never really worked for me. I really enjoyed her debut novel, and I think that that's probably just the pinnacle of her career for me, and who knows if we're going to meet again in the future. That's what's going out, but fear not, there's plenty coming in to replace it, including The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett. Now, I really should have spoken with my dad. I think he's got a copy of this at home. I'm not entirely sure if he does, but I know that I want to read it before I go back home for Christmas. This is a very short novella. I think it's only about 200 pages or so. And it is set among the Fairway players, who you would have met in The Appeal. This is set around Christmas time, and it's set around a production of Jack and the Beanstalk, but there is a murder that happens throughout the play that isn't exactly in the script. So you and the two law students, Femi and Charlotte, are tasked with trying to figure out what's been going on. I really loved The Appeal when I read it. I was completely glued to my chair. I haven't had the best luck with Janice Hallett since though, but I'm hoping that this is going to be returned for. I've also picked up The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. This is going to be the second Elle Kennedy book on my physical TBR, and I think that means I really need to give her a try. I've also got a couple on my Kindle, I've also got a couple from NetGalley, and I think that this is just a sign that if I keep collecting these books, and if I keep hoarding them, but it's all from the same author, and I've never tried a single one of them before, this is my chance to actually figure out if Elle Kennedy's work works for me. I think this is in the Off Campus series, and it's kind of a hockey romance. I haven't really gone into the whole intricacies of what this is, but I know that Elle Kennedy writes a lot of kind of college hockey romances, so let's see how that works for me. I also picked up The Holiday Honeymoon Swap by Julia McKay because the concept of this sounded so interesting. It's about best friends Holly and Ivy, who look almost identical to one another. When Holly is left at the altar, Ivy steps in to pretty much save the day. So instead of going to her cabin in the woods, Ivy actually offers that up to Holly so that she can go and repair her broken heart, scream her lungs out, watch all of the Netflix movies that she wants to, and just gorge on all of the snacks that she can get her hands on. Meanwhile, Ivy is going to take their honeymoon to Hawaii and get a little bit of sun into her. What happens while both of them are away is that both of them catch the eyes of some particularly good-looking natives. And I am so intrigued to see what a kind of a Christmas book is going to be like when you're in sunnier climes. Anywhere that I've ever spent Christmas before has been cold, has been dark, has been dreary. Sometimes there's even been snow. So seeing what it's going to be like on a tropical island is something I'm very here for. I also picked up a copy of The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I've heard some very interesting things about this book. I have heard it described as a thriller with a completely mind-bending twist, and I am so interested in that. This is about a housemaid who comes and takes care of the Winchesters' house every single day, also collects their daughter from school, and is kind of obsessed with inserting themselves in the Winchesters' life. Will try on their wedding dress, for example, or will get into bed and imagine that this is where they spend their evenings rather than back at home. I am so intrigued. I have a feeling that this is going to go a little bit dark, this is going to go a little bit twisty, but I'm so ready for it. I also picked up a celebrity memoir, and that is Right Said Fred by Freddie Flintoff. This isn't one that you would necessarily think that I'm going to pick up. Freddie is a cricket player, and he's one of England's most decorated and most celebrated and probably most well-known cricket players, but I know him more from his television appearances. I know him as one of the team captains on A League of Their Own, for example, and that's really where I got to know him a lot more. So I'm interested to see what other aspects of his life have I been missing out on, what are the things that make him tick, what was his professional career like. I'm really interested to see what it is that I've been missing out on so far. One of my favorite books of all time is Beartown, and I have set myself the goal in 2025 to try and read the other two books in the trilogy, and of course that has to start with Us Against You. I am so intrigued by this book because of what happened at the end of Beartown and how things are going to go from there, especially when things are being set up in a new town, there's new hockey teams being set up, and there's always going to be that underlying I blame you, victim blaming type situation. I know that Frederick Backman writes with an absolutely cutthroat pen, and I am so ready for him to break my heart all over again. Another series that I am ready for in 2025 is the Thursday Murder Club series, and this time I'm going to be finishing it out with The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman. My brother and my dad have both read this. This is actually a copy that I got from my dad, and I am ready to join in the conversation now. We all have decided that when all three of us have finished the books, and I am the last one that has to go, sometime that I am at home, my brother is also going to come home from Dublin, and we're going to just sit down. We'll have some food, we'll have a couple of drinks, we'll talk about the whole series, we'll talk about the characters, we'll talk about the situations that they've gotten themselves into. And it sounds so perfect to me that I have to put this book as a top priority for next year. I also got a copy of The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. I've had a kind of an up and down with the Lucy Foley books that I've read so far. I had a really good time with the guest list, and I spent the entire novel trying to figure out what was going on and trying to figure out which one of these characters was actually the person that I was looking for. But the Paris department didn't really work for me. I DNF'd it about 50 or so percent of the way through, and I also have a copy of The Hunting Party back at my parents' house that my aunt has somehow managed to find in the massive pile of books that she's got at home and left it at my parents for me. So I'm really intrigued to see what The Midnight Feast is going to be like, because it's going to be either one of the two sides, and I don't know where it's going to go. The final new addition to my shelf is The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. This is huge. I think this is about 500 to 550 pages. This has also won a couple of awards back in Ireland, I think including the An Post Newcomer of the Year or Book of the Year, and I am so interested to see what it is all the hype has been about. Now, my mom did try and read this, but she is unequivocally not a reader. I think she got to about 50 or so pages in the span of 6 or so months before she just said, you know what, this book is going to defeat me, but I think you'd enjoy it. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to go in with my best intentions, and let's just see how far I get in. That is everything that is coming off my TBR at the moment, and that is everything that is going on there. With that balance of figures, with everything coming off and everything that's come on, we are ending 2024 with a TBR, just the physical stuff, of 46 books. Considering I wanted to spend 2024 getting my TBR under 50 books, this is absolutely being counted as a win. Now, I know that I have got a massive Christmas shop that's ahead of me because my dad always gets me a couple of book vouchers for Christmas, so I usually just go out and buy whatever it is that I've wanted. But I'm hoping that that's not going to make a big dent in the numbers. What is one book that you are absolutely looking forward to putting on your Christmas TBR this year? If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then why not just leave me the balancing scales emoji? Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.